good stewards of the dollars that we have. And to just say, we are not gonna make, we're gonna give up a funding stream that we had intended to use to make those payments, is a difficult decision to make from a fiscal side of the house. If I could just say, wipe it clean and say, you know what, we'll just make it a clean cut, I wish I could do that, but as the chief business official for the district, in 10 or 15 years, I just don't know if that's a very sound decision to make today. Again, we haven't spent any money there, so I know we're clean, but it's a matter of, you know, do I give up that potential funding stream if it's needed in the future? And that's the part that concerns me, and I just want to address that part of it too, because that's a big part of it for me, is that to put ourselves at financial risk as a district because of a decision to just remove that funding stream concerns me. And it is illegally, from our legal counsel, we can legally use those dollars to pay that debt. And again, it's still, from everything I've read, the intent is if those students return to Bass Lake Elementary School, when it's built, that they would go to Pleasant Brook. That's a decision we can make, you know, as a board, but that's the way it stands right now, is my understanding. So, moving on to the El Dorado Schools Financing Authority website. From the February meeting, one of the things that was requested from the community members and the stakeholders that live in that community was that they wanted more transparency about things that were, projects that were happening, projects that had happened, an accounting of the expenditures that were being made. And so this was created. It took about 5 or 6 months or more to get this up and going. Unfortunately, it was being put up right in the middle of the time when we were doing closing, and I had a difficult time, I will admit, I had a difficult time meeting the timelines that were being requested of me to get information up there. And I will even admit that some of the information is not what I would say is what I would prefer to have up there. But I'm not taking it down right now until we just go through all that data and look at it and make sure everything is right. And I'll confer with our auditors and our legal counsel to make sure if there's any way to present the information that is clearly understandable and is completely correct. So, and that's what my goal is, to try to get that up there. So I'll take any responsibility for that if there's any questions about that. But this website it's an excellent website. It's going to be a nice tool for the community and for us as a district. One of the, as you can see, we got Rescue Unit School District here. So this is our district. We have all 3 districts there. You have the member districts and their board agendas that will flow through there. We have linked that now. We've had some time to start to get the information in there. The books are closed. We've had our audit. Some time to try to get some things done. New projects, they have a column for that. Meeting dates for the Financing Authority. Current reports, so just our expenditures and revenue reports. Completed projects. So it's a nice place to manage the information that's related to the CFP. And we have linked everything over from our website to the new website, so things are kind of flowing better, and we're getting a little bit, better understanding how that's going to work. So that's the status of that. When we have something that happens in the district, we will try to post it. There was a question about the timing of the information related to the Sienna Ridge property. If there's any fault in the timing of that, I will take responsibility for that, because my understanding was we were operating under the Brown Act, and that was a very confidential process, and that meeting we had at the 1st of September this month, our meeting, was when that item became public. And if that was not done according to the expectations of the community, then again, I take responsibility for that. We will host, again, as I said earlier, a public hearing at our November meeting. If people want to make comment at that time, that would be the appropriate place to make those comments. And so that's about the best we can do, I think, or I can do to make that right as best I can if we did make an error. So I just wanted to reiterate that. And again, this is up and working now. So a little bit on the status of the Sienna Ridge property. We're very excited about this property. We think it's an excellent site for a school. Accessibility, lighting, a lighted signal at that corner. There's utilities nearby. When I drive out of there, I live in the Toronto area. When I drive here to work, I drive by the very kids that are getting on buses and having to go that distance, 7 miles one way across our district just to get to and from school. And I'm there like in 4 minutes from my house. And I'm just like, scoot right across the road and get through the light, and I would be at my home school, my neighborhood school, which would serve that community. To me, it's an investment in the future. Obviously, we're probably not ready to build anytime soon, but as far as preparing for the future, it's a very sound decision in my viewpoint. Some of the things that have been updated, the aeronautical review is in. We've been approved on the aeronautical review already. The initial site review by the CDE, I already mentioned that they've been out to look at it. And then we are supposed to get our one environmental site inspection completed here in the next couple of days. It should be here soon. So we have a 60-day escrow period with extensions, and we're well ahead on that process. So we're going to have a lot of information with which to make our decision ultimately by that November meeting. So the progress is good, and I know there's people who have opinions one way or the other. We've looked at what we've seen from our information from our consultants, and we feel pretty good about the direction we're going. Student data. So let's look at what's it look like in the CFD. Our current enrollment in the district is 3669. That enrollment exceeds all our highest projections from our studies that we had done last spring. So our low enrollment, low growth, mid growth, high growth, it exceeds all three of those. So we are at 3669. Our projected low projection, when we do revenue projections versus housing projections, when we do revenue projections, we use low growth because we don't want to over-project revenues. That's not very prudent and wise. But when we're looking at to construct facilities, we have to go, okay, what's the, where is the most likelihood of things happening? And we need to prepare for that. So we use different projections based on what the needs are as far as those numbers. When I'm trying to project revenues, and this is the one we use for that, we use the low growth formula. CFD number 1 students, there are 325 based on my calculations on September 24th. Green Valley has a total of 433 students. 5 of them are CFD students, and they all live in Cameron Glen. Lakeview Elementary has 525 total students. 177 of those are CFD students, and they all live in the Serrano area. Lake Forest, 439, 7 CFD students, all Serrano area. Jackson, 430, 12 CFD students, all Serrano. Rescue has 14 CFD students, they all come from Cameron Glen. Pleasant Grove has 619 total students, 14 are CFD students, 3 are from Serrano, and 11 are from Cameron Glen. Marina Village has 775 students, 96 of those students are CFD, and they come from the Serrano area. The next question I have on there is, does the CFD number 1 have an end date? As I stated earlier, the way this CFD was created prior to the new statutes of the NOAA rules, and the landowner elected to use language that would allow this CFD number 1 to go on for basically perpetuity. So you know, I guess the intent is that, you know, we want, by having good roads and good schools, that it maintains property values, and so there's an incentive for that type of, that would be the reason I would imagine for having that type of language in place. With regard to number 16, how the funds are distributed between the districts, again, that's asked and answered. 31% goes to the elementary, I'm sorry. 61.7% goes to elementary school districts, and 38.30 goes to the high school district, depending on the home. Wherever the home is, if it's in the Buckeyes district, then they're gonna get the dollars. If it's in the Rescues district, we get the dollars. So what happens next, going to 18, I'll skip to 17, go back to 17, is that we hold our, we continue to do our due diligence, and we're looking at the Sienna Ridge property right now. That's the big CFD thing that's happening, and we will hold our public hearing on November 10th, and as to when we will make that purchase, we have a lot of work to do still. We have a lot of reviews and analysis to do whether we'll even make the purchase, but all things look good so far, and so we do have our escrow period and the extensions if we need them to make that decision. That is the,
Thank you, Sharon.
that's my presentation on CFP number 1, a little history of current status, and so hopefully that was,
That was a lot
gave a lot of
information.
information.
A lot of information, thank you, and I appreciate the fact that it is on the website, all these documents are readily available for us and anyone else who chooses to look at them. So I'm gonna go to the board first and ask if you have questions, comments, or anything you would like to contribute at this point.
Well, I just want to echo, I thank Sid, first of all, because it's very, very comprehensive. It was, I know I emailed you about midnight last night, keep going over and over and over, but I really appreciate the amount and depth of the information, and that there were some things I was able to go through public sources before it's all on the website, but it really is nice to have it all in one place so that it's accessible, because I think, for me, and I'll just tag onto that kind of a comment about the JPA website, is that that website, in my mind, is not intended to supplant our district website, first and foremost, our information, and to our taxpayers and to our parents and community members, to me, always first and foremost on our district website. And we participate in the JPA, and we have that information there, but I think that, you know, we have a small office staff, we don't have the luxury of the number of staff that the high school district has, and I don't know what kind of staff Buckeye has in their business services department, but ours is small, and they are very, you know, you guys do a great job, and there's a lot to get done. So I appreciate the fact that, and, you know, I think that awareness that it's always here, you know, first, and then absolutely we get it there as quickly as possible, but communicating and just reiterating, letting people know that information, just like whether our board calendar, our board agendas and everything's always first and foremost on our district website. So I don't have any problem with the time it takes. You've got to do a lot of jobs, I know, at one time. So I think I did just a clarification, when we're speaking of facilities, and I believe it was also in the letter from Lizana Smith, which is helpful, is that when we say school site students go to, it isn't only whether that school site is attended by those students, but it also includes any central use facilities. So for instance, at Pleasant Grove, we house our central kitchen, which serves all of our students. So that central kitchen is serving all 325, is it, of our CFD, our students who come from within the CFD. Correct. And it is my correct understanding that under the Belarus language, that is an appropriate use. So the central kitchen there, the recent work in the central kitchen there, that is all falls under correct use.
That would fall under the, I believe it's the paragraph 2 of Exhibit B, the facilities serving students generated within
Okay.
CFD. Yeah.
So any of those uses like that, so. I think those are my other two questions. The other one is just kind of more a question, just kind of curiosity, Sid, and I wouldn't expect you to know it off the top of your head, but this is the amount we receive CFD facilities wise. In general, a taxpayer, I mean, obviously this isn't our only source of revenue to the district. Anyone who's a taxpayer, property owner within our school boundaries pays property tax. And so for instance, on say a $5,500 annual tax bill, a percent of that is going to come to the West Union School District as well. Do you have any idea off the top of your head what percent? I mean, in addition, I know I'm asking a question, I don't expect an answer, I guess, but it would be interesting to kind of a comparison, because I think sometimes that we forget that we have taxpayers throughout our district who are paying into not only our bonds, but are paying a percentage of their property tax to our school districts as well. And sometimes it's good to have the information also, because as they're getting information from other agencies, so for instance, fire departments will talk about what percent of that dollar, tax dollar that they receive. And recently, they were making quite a few comparisons to what percent of that dollar is carved out from the school districts as opposed to what small percentage of that dollar goes to the local fire agencies. So that might be something that as we move forward, it would be kind of nice, just a little snapshot of an individual's and overall general, property taxpayer, aside from the CFD facility, what percent of your tax dollar is going toward the school district? So that might be just some additional information that would be relevant for people to have, I think, as taxpayers within the district. Thank you.
Well said. I want to say thank you. I wanted this. I wanted to have all this information, and I think you did an excellent job of providing it. So thank you. I know it took a lot of time to compile and put it all together, but I thought, not just for me and for us sitting up here, but I thought that our community needed to be given not just the information, but also documents, because everyone wants to be able to reference it and review it themselves. I have one question that it was in my head. So why, what was the reason that we paid off the 2001, $5 million of the 2001 COP with the 2010? Was it a better interest rate?
There was a refinancing in 2006.
2008.
2008.
Okay.
And I would assume that there was better financing rates at that time.
Okay. I was wondering if there was a reason we didn't just keep it separate.
My guess on that is originally the 2001 COPs were variable rate, or weekly interest rate. And in 2008, as you all know, we had the housing market crisis, and so it was, a lot of things were happening in the bond world that were, kind of going crazy. The interest rates were spiking, people wanted to get out of the variable rate debt because it was going through the roof. I assume the district had a similar situation, and it could also be that the liquidity provided, meaning the banks that were going to provide you the upfront cash to pay on a weekly basis in case you couldn't make that payment. We're saying we want out of this, we don't want variable rate anymore. So most school districts and other government agencies wanted to fix out their interest rates, just lock it in wherever they could at that time. And interest rates, of course, on the fixed rate side were ratcheting up. So come 2010, the interest rate environment was more favorable. So most likely the district was able to, again, save money by going from one fixed rate and higher, just like you would for your home, to a lower fixed rate.
That makes sense. Thank you for that
You're
answer.
welcome.
That explains it very clearly. We were very methodical and thoughtful in our in our decisions.
Again, very complete presentation, thank you. It fills in a lot of information that I didn't have, and I'm sure a lot of people didn't have. The history makes a bigger, more complete picture. So, having said that, I know there are probably some of you who have some questions or comments that you would like to share with the board, and we would entertain your participation. If you come to the podium, I would like you to state your name. And maybe where, if you're, obviously you're from the CFD #1
Yes,
district.
so, that's Rhonda. I have a couple of statements.
Excuse
First
me
off,
just a minute, Kate. we're not going to time you as in a normal public comment, you have 3
It's-
minutes, but we're gonna encourage
I'll keep it short.
succinct.
I've got
Yes.
specific things. So a
Okay,
couple of
thank
things.
you.
One, your history is off. And you should reference the email from Carol Bly, which actually gives you the correct history for what happened in Upper Serrano. Another issue that I have is why is a community that is 8% of your student enrollment responsible for paying part of 2 schools plus another school? Another issue that I have is the fact that you have currently an open capacity of 1,826 students. The state of California does not like you to go ahead and buy property and accumulate property, and which is why that there is a penalty for any time that you have property for more than 5 years. Currently, based upon your enrollment, you have more than 2 1/4 empty schools based upon the capacity that you have. And even in your best case scenario for the Sienna Ridge, you will still have in 10 years more than 1 empty school. So I'm assuming it's going to be more like 15, 20 years before you'll actually need to fill that school. And when you come into that, you're now talking another $200,000 in penalties alone in having empty property. My last issue is that, I'm losing it here. So, I mean, my biggest thing is, you've changed your history. You've flat out changed your history. Up until May of this year, you were telling us that we were paying for Pleasant Grove. Now, all of a sudden, when we had the conversation going, there's no way in hell we're responsible for Pleasant Grove, because the district decided to move us in 2004 because they needed to fill Lakeview Elementary. That's what I have from Dr. Bly. That is the history that I'm going off of. And you decided, 10 years after Pleasant Grove was built, that all of a sudden we're responsible for paying for it. And then in 2015, so sometime between May of this year and August of this year, you decided that, oh, well, now you're gonna be responsible for paying Lakeview too. So you guys decided that you were going to make us responsible for paying for these schools. There is no need for capacity. Serrano only has another 700 homes left in it, which based upon your yield is still only another 237 students. Well, when you have a capacity of 1,826, trust me, our 237 students will fit in that 1,826. So I think you guys are unfairly punishing a community. I think that you have been very shady in what you've been doing. The fact that you're changing your story. The 2010 COP was to refund the 2001 COP, and if you read the 2001 COP, it very clearly states that it is for building a Pleasant Grove. At the point that you decided in 2004 that you no longer wanted us to go to Pleasant Grove because